This is Barry here, and you are very, very welcome to today's podcast episode. Now, today's podcast episode, I want to talk about your mindset, because if there is anything that's going to screw you up from being successful, from building a business around your passion, from making money online, it's going to be your mindset. How you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, because how you think about yourself and how you feel about yourself is going to be the actions that you're going to take. You know, the actions you're going to take are going to be based on those two different things. So what I want to do in this podcast episode is I want to give you some thoughts. I want to give you maybe some new perspectives, and I want to give you some maybe mental tweaks that hopefully will allow you to unlock the best version of you, so that when you do build a business around your passion, you're going to be successful and it's not going to hinder you at all. Now, the first point I want to bring up is that you are not a grade. You know, right now you could possibly be basing your life on a piece of paper that you were given maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And maybe that grade paper told you that maybe you were a D student or an E student. And what we stupidly do is we look at that snapshot of our life and we base the rest of our life around that. You know, when you think about it, that exam that you got that grade on, that was one day in your life. One tiny day in your life. Now, that day you did the exam, you might have maybe not studied for the exam, maybe you didn't like the subject, maybe the teacher you had wasn't any good, and because of all those factors, that's why you got that D grade. And what we do is we come out of school with this D grade, we look at that piece of paper and we say to ourselves, well, that's us. I am a D student. And what we do is we kind of go on that track through the rest of our lives, where we only make decisions as a D student. You know, we look at maybe jobs, maybe opportunities that we could go for, but we look at those and we say to ourselves, well, that's only for an A student, a B student, or a C student, but me being D, it's not going to happen. I can't do it. And we base our lives on that grade. Now, I want you to think about how crazy it is to base your life on a tiny snapshot of your life. And yet we do it. We automatically kind of fall into place and think, well, I'm a D student, and we live our lives that way. And I want you just to remember that the person you are right now isn't the person that you were when you were maybe 16, 19, 20 or whatever, that right now you're a completely different person. So how crazy is it to base you right now on what you were like back then? You're a completely different person. So I want you to think about that for a moment. Are you basing your decisions and your actions on that grade? You need to dismiss all that. You need to put all that away, because you're not your grade. Another thing I'll say to you as well too is that you are not an opinion. Again, sometimes somebody might say something to us and we just latch onto it, and then we carry that for the rest of our lives. You know, because this person said I am a certain way, well then that means that I am a certain way. But really, of all the people in the world, we are basing what we are as a person on one person's opinion. And I want you to think about maybe the person who gave you that opinion on the day. Could it be that maybe they just weren't looking out for you? Maybe were trying to purposely bring you down? Were they angry? Were they pissed at you? Were they being honest? Would you really trust that person's opinion about yourself? And maybe even if you do trust that person's opinion, have you asked other people what are their opinion of you? And you're probably going to find that other people's opinions of you are different than that person's opinion. But sometimes we just kind of latch on to this opinion that somebody gave us and we feel, well, that's how we are. Again, that opinion could be going back to childhood. It could be maybe something that somebody said to us in school, on the job, and we feel that that's the way we are. And because we feel that their opinion is right of us, again, we go down that track of living our lives a certain way. Not, taking opportunities, not taking actions because we feel, well, I'm not the type of person that, could do those things because that person said to me, well, I'm not very clever, or that, that I'll never have what it takes to make money, or whatever it is. And we base our lives on that opinion. What if that person's wrong? Now, I know for a fact that person was wrong, because the person that is here right now is going to be a different person 6 months from now. Is going to be a different person a year from now. So really, if you're going to change as a person going into the future, I'm sure you have changed from that moment that that person gave you that opinion. So stop basing your life on what you think and what you do based on opinion, because that opinion is probably very, very wrong. Another thing I'll say to you is that you are not a failure. Again, going back to the exams, sometimes when we have a failure in an exam, we feel that we're a failure. But really, we're basing our lives on a failure in one part of our lives. Okay, you might maybe fail that maths exam, but does that make you a failure at all the other things you do in your life? No, it doesn't. But sometimes we think, well, because we're a failure in one part of our lives, that means that we're a failure in all parts of our lives. And that is totally not true. Again, even flipping the other way and looking at success. Sometimes we might see someone who is maybe a celebrity, maybe an actor who is just successful as an actor. And we assume that because they're successful as an actor, that the rest of their lives is all successes. And then maybe we find out then maybe that they were a poor parent, maybe a bad husband, they were cheating, they were a bad person to be around. But we stupidly believe that because they were a success as an actor, it meant that as a parent, as a partner, as a friend, that they were a success in all those things too. And sometimes you find that that is the only thing that they're successful in is an actor. And the rest of their lives is just a dumpster on fire. So again, flipping it back the other way, does that mean that because you failed a test, does that mean that the rest of you is a failure? And even maybe if it's not a test, maybe if there's a part of your life that you failed at, does that mean that, every part of your life is a failure? That you're a failure as a parent, that you're a failure at making money, that you're a failure at driving a car, that you're a failure at this, failure at that? But it's not. You're going to find that that's just a tiny segment of a failure, and that isn't you as a whole. So don't think of yourself that way. But again, too many of us do. And because we think that way, we act that way, and we get the results that we get. Now, what I'd say to you as well too is that everybody screws up part of their life. I think sometimes when we screw up part of our lives, we self-sabotage ourselves because we feel we're not deserving of success. Because we screwed up part of our lives, maybe we had money problems in the past, or maybe we had child problems, or just some part of our life went wrong. And because we screwed up then, well, that means that we don't deserve any success in the future. Now, even in my own case, I have screwed up many times. I screwed up one time where I unfortunately had to give my house back to the bank because I got into debt and we more or less lost everything. And at the time we had 2 small kids, and I remember feeling really, really, really terrible when we had to sell that house. Because what I said to myself was, Barry, you're a parent, you've got these 2 kids, you've got your wife, and you couldn't hold on to that. You let it all go. And I held on to us losing the house as a reflection on me. And what I did was I was trying to punish myself again and again and again for that mistake instead of allowing it to go. And you could be doing that as well too. Maybe there is some part of your life that you screwed up and you're trying to punish yourself. But really, do you think you're going to be successful if you keep punishing yourself? And you've already learned your lesson. Like, I learned that lesson when we lost the house. But does that mean I need to replay that lesson over and over and over again to pay for it? No, I've already paid for it. And I don't want you to do that as well too. I don't want you to be self-sabotaging yourself and just being down on yourself because you screwed up part of your life. You're going to find that some of the most successful people have messed up a part of their lives. Everything was a mess until they turned their life around and then they become a success. And if you don't believe me, go and buy some biographies or autobiographies, because you're going to find that some people maybe that you are celebrating could have screwed up a part of their lives on their journey to where they are right now. And I don't want you doing that, because as I said, we punish ourselves. And how are we expecting ourselves to be successful if we keep punishing ourselves? Another thing I'd say to you as well too is that you can't control the result. Sometimes this mental problem that we have of wanting to control the result makes us scared to take action. Now, right now, as I'm recording this video, there's nothing I can control here. The only thing I can control is trying to give you my best advice, try to record this video as best I can, and then put it on the internet. What happens after that is out of my control. And I want you to think about that as well too, that whatever you're about to do, you can't control the results. You know, you can write the best blog post, you can make the best video, you can write the best ebook, you can build the best website. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be successful. The results of what's going to happen is outside your control. But the one thing you can control is showing up, doing the best work that you can, and then letting nature take care of itself. Allowing other people to finally get that good content and then follow you. But you can't control the results. And I think sometimes because we can't control the results, that stops us. Because we feel, well, you know, why should I make a video if no one watches it? Why should I write an ebook if I'm not guaranteed that it's going to sell well? Sometimes you don't know the results. Sometimes you could maybe write a blog post that isn't relevant to someone today, but it could be relevant to someone maybe in 6 months from now. It maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe we're just a little bit off with the subject. So all we can really control is what we think about ourselves and the work that we do, trying to do the best that we can, and then just let everything else take control of itself. Another thing I'd say to you is that, and something that I have to drum into my head, is that mistakes will be made. You know, as I'm making this video, I already know, even off the top of my head, without even actually playing back through this video, I know some of the mistakes I've made. I know some of the times I've lost train of my thought. I know maybe sometimes I just probably could explain something a little bit better, but I know that there's some mistakes in this video. But I've gone into this video knowing that there will be mistakes made. And you need to do that as well too. You need to dismiss the idea of doing something perfectly, of creating something that can't be criticized, can't be torn apart, that it's absolutely brilliant. And again, when you go into something with that mindset, you're never going to do your best work. You're never going to show up here consistently because you're going to be afraid, well, if I show up today, I'm going to make a mistake. But if you do this mental tweak of knowing that whatever you're going into right now is going to be filled with mistakes and that you are willing to go into it knowing that those mistakes are going to be there, it does take a lot of pressure off you. Like right now, as I'm not worried about making mistakes in this video, I've got no pressure. I am just sitting here and I'm talking to you, hopefully giving you the best content that I can, but I know that I'm going to make mistakes along the way. And I know for a fact that when I come back tomorrow with another video, I'm going to make more mistakes. But you have to be willing to go into whatever you're going to do, knowing the mistakes will be made and being willing to make those mistakes. And it's only about making those mistakes that you actually learn and then that you actually get better in it. So if maybe something like that is holding you back, just turn that mental tweak. Forget about perfection and start thinking of all these lovely mistakes that you're going to make. Even hitting the microphone there, that's another mistake I made, but I don't care. I'm going to carry on because I'm willing to make the mistakes. And you need to be willing to make the mistakes too as well to get to where you want to get to. And the last thing I'd say to you is that failure hurts, but it's not fatal. Unless maybe it's heart failure, which will probably be fatal. But any other type of failure isn't fatal. You know, the thing that stopped me from doing some of the things I did in the beginning was fearing failure. What if I make this video and no one watches it? What if I write a blog post and no one reads it? What if I spend all this time writing an ebook or maybe creating a digital product and no one buys it? And what I did was I put that fear of failure in front of me, and that was holding me back. But really, it was only when I actually put the content out there, I realized that failure isn't fatal. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it hurts to record a video that you put your heart and soul into and no one watches it. That hurts, but it's not fatal. You know, it doesn't mean that you can't come back tomorrow. It doesn't mean that the world's going to stop spinning in its orbit. It doesn't mean that you're going to drop dead with a heart attack or that something nasty is going to happen to you. No, failure does hurt, but it's not fatal. It doesn't mean you can't come back tomorrow and try again. Write another blog post, make another video, try writing another ebook, try another maybe side hustle or whatever it is to make money online. It doesn't mean you can't do that. So don't let the topic of, failure hold you back, thinking that it's an end result. You'll still be here tomorrow. The sun will still come up. The birds will still be singing. Nobody will care about that failure that you had. Sometimes we hold on to our failures and think the whole world remembers when we had a bad blog post, when we had a bad, video. Even if we maybe go back to actors again. A lot of these actors that we celebrate, we usually celebrate them for maybe the 3 or 4, maybe 5 movies that they made that they were amazing. And we never think of all the flops and all the failures they had in the beginning. We just concentrate on the good stuff. And that's what I want you to do as well too, is concentrate on your good stuff. Forget about all the things that failed in the past. And the more things you will try, the more failures you're going to have. So instead of looking down here at the failures, keep your eye on the things that are going right. And remember, failure will hurt, but it's not fatal. So hopefully, as I said, this podcast episode does help you, because I think a lot of us, unfortunately, aren't as successful building a business around a passion is because this mental hurdle that we need to get over. We don't feel good about ourselves. And because we don't feel positive and we don't feel good about ourselves, we think a certain way. We take actions a certain way, which gives us results that probably are lukewarm, probably aren't anything as good as we could get. So hopefully maybe this new perspective I've given you in this episode does maybe take some of that weight off your shoulder. Make you realise that, in my own case, that I was a dummy for thinking that a grade paper was a representation of me, or that someone's opinion of me was me as a person. I don't want you to make that mistake. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, I'd love to know what you thought of it. What was the best part? Do you have any questions, any comments? Please feel free to leave them below this video. And as always, have a lovely day. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.